Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
So are you watching some Olympics? Watching the Olympics? I find it really heartwarming when the nations come together peacefully and teammates are working well together. Opponents are even sometimes congratulating and honoring each other and respecting each other. I just feel like it kind of brings out the best in humanity. I love these stories of achievement and accomplishment. Just the best of humanity sometimes, I think, comes forth. And you might have seen a story from earlier in the week of a Brazilian gymnast named Flavia. In warm-up, she injured her face. She fell and injured her face. And then moments later, she gets up on that same apparatus and does her routine and gets a good score. And then she competes the rest of the evening, 3 more events with a black eye and a bandage on her eyebrow. And she helped her team, she helped her country, Brazil, win their first Olympic medal in women's gymnastics. And I'm just so here for this kind of story of strength and resilience and achievement and accomplishment, and also just the hope and the goodwill and the camaraderie. And for me, it almost feels like a new kind of energy coming forth, and not a moment too soon. And to me, it feels like there's kind of a momentum shift, not just with the Olympics, but other news of the world, other things that are happening. And yeah, I want more of this. So this is August, the first week of August, and the theme for this month is prosperity. And I'm kicking off the first week of this series, and then Cynthia James will do next week, and then we'll have Reverend Michael back for the last 2 weeks of August. And just so happy to be able to speak to this. When we talk about prosperity, we mean in all aspects of life. And so I'm going to talk about prosperity from some work of Nathaniel Newby that I helped to bring forth. And in that work, we talk about prosperity as an abundance of possibilities that are considered valuable. We can think of prosperity as an abundance of possibilities that are considered valuable. For example, if everybody here and everybody watching was suddenly given $10,000 in cash, you would have some new possibilities that you didn't have before. Maybe you would pay off some bills. Maybe you would book some sacred travel. Maybe you would join with the people who are buying new screens for our sanctuary. So money brings forth possibilities. Health brings forth possibilities. What would you do if you were completely healthy in all aspects of your life, in body, mind, and spirit? And similarly, we can have a prosperity and abundance in purpose and meaning in life. If you have a fulfilling livelihood, if you get to wake up in the morning and do what you love to do, if you know that you're bringing forth positive change and having a positive effect on the world around you, that makes life worthwhile. It brings meaning to life. So I'm going to talk about prosperity in the light of the law of cycles. And there's 2 primary cycles that I'm going to talk about, the circle and the spiral. And we'll talk about why this matters and how awareness can improve our lives. So first, the circle as a type of cycle. A circle is a repetitive pattern that brings you back to the beginning. It brings you back to where you started. A circle is a symbol of eternity because there's no beginning and there's no end. A positive aspect of a circle is that it provides stability. You know where you're going. You're going around in the circle. You can even think of the circle as a symbol of protection. You know when you have those times where you've extended yourself a lot, maybe you're dealing with a lot of change, or maybe you're meeting a lot of new people or having new experiences and new activities, and then what you want to do is just go back to your safe and predictable mode of being, your safe and predictable way of being. And this is why a circle can be a safe space. Rituals are a type of circle. Rituals harken back to the past. For example, in a marriage ceremony, there's elements of marriage ceremonies that have been performed for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And the way we celebrate holidays, we have rituals, things that we do. Maybe we hunt Easter eggs or have a Seder once a year in the Jewish tradition. Here at Unity of Houston, on Christmas Eve, we do our annual candle lighting service. And from one flame, light spreads throughout the sanctuary, illuminating the darkened room. So through rituals, we create community and we create a culture because there's some predictability. It's a foundation that we build on. It's a returning in a cycle. So there's bonding and there's grounding. It can be comforting to return to a familiar pattern. Now, as conscious beings, what happens when we go around in a circle too much for too long? And we might get a little bit bored. We might be ready for something new. So, do you ever do something out of the ordinary just to see what will happen? You ever just do something unpredictable just because you can? Some of us are more prone to that than others. So, to truly thrive and to truly prosper, we need some sparks of creativity and innovation from time to time. And this is true in every aspect of life, in our individual lives, in organizations, in families, in cultures, and in societies. We need times when we protect and repeat what is working, and we also need to be open to new ideas. So that's the circle. Now we're going to talk about the spiral as another type of cycle. And we know that cycles exist in life. This is even referenced in the Bible. In the third chapter of Ecclesiastes begins, "For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted." We cycle through day and night, but not the same day, not the same night. We cycle through the seasons, but not the same winter and not the same spring. So we are on a spiral. And in life, there is progression. Progression is a part of this life experience. We might even imagine that progression is part of all universes and all realms of being. We can't know that, so we'll just focus on being here now, like we talked about last month. But progression is one way that life is set up to work here. You know how in a video game or in a science fiction world, there's just certain rules or certain structures that govern that existence. And progression is just one aspect of life that we experience here. We need times of rest, and we need times of activity. We need times to conserve and to regroup. And then we need times to venture out with courage and creativity. So it's effective to discern how you're operating. Are you circling or are you spiraling? Both are needed, both are important, both are valid, but it's good to be aware and to make conscious choices. Let's talk about cycles in relationships, because cycles are very evident in relationships. And maybe one of the most important ways is through attention given and a lack of attention given and received. And you know that for a relationship to work, you need some stability and predictability, and you also need to inject some newness now and then. If there was somebody in your life who was completely erratic and capricious and unpredictable, you wouldn't have a good foundation to build on. If you never knew what they were going to say or what they were going to do, that would be really difficult to have a foundation for that relationship. On the other hand, if it seems like you always know what they're going to say and what they're going to do in any situation, you might want to inject some new activity that you can share, that you can talk about. I had these friends, they were a couple. We were sitting around one night in a group talking, and a certain topic came up, and the friend who was next to me, she kind of said under her breath, but where I could hear her, one time at band camp, and sure enough, right on cue, her partner launched into a story with those exact words, one time at band camp. And I just thought that was so funny but that's the way life is, right? We know each other, we get to know each other, we hear the stories, we know the stories after a while. And I actually think that this is why some coaches become ineffective, because if the team has heard those same stories over and over and over again, if the coach is very predictable in their presence and their wording, I think, people tune them out after a while. And this is actually one thing I really appreciate about Reverend Michael Gott, our senior minister, is he's always enthusiastic about something. He's always learning something, whether it's spiral dynamics or the Enneagram or Jungian psychology. He's always bringing something new into his conversations and into his life and into what he shares. So there's different ways to break out of a routine, and one way is by experiencing a strong emotion. A strong emotion can be a kickstart to get us out of a circle, maybe into a spiral. For example, you might travel and experience awe and wonder at some beautiful vista, something you've never seen before. Even just going to a new place can be a spark. You can raise children, you can adopt a pet, you can cook a new type of cuisine. And I've actually seen suffering really bring people together in very deep and effective ways. So life offers an array of possibilities for experiences. As human beings, we're called to progress in consciousness. What do I mean by this? We progress in consciousness by becoming more and more aware of our connection with the divine, with our ability to reveal oneness, with our ability to connect with and bring forth the divine source of all that is in, as, and through our lives. And that is progression in consciousness. And have you noticed that some progression involves really difficult activities and really challenging obstacles? And that's why we have support. That's why we have prayer and coaching and mentoring and groups and pastoral care and all kinds of ways that we can be supported, because we all need that from time to time. So again, a circle is a pattern that repeats without the possibility of advancing to another level. Circles have their place. We need to return to what is familiar. We need to regroup. We need to rest. We need to feel safe. We need to reinforce our learning. And we need to reinforce our foundation. So again, this is how we train children, how we train the next generation. We bring them up with some rituals and some circles to teach them who we are, to get them part of this culture and this community. We have a saying that we're creatures of habit. Sometimes we do get into patterns that are habit forming, and we can get entrenched into those patterns. We also have a saying, like a bump on a log. That's because bumps on logs are not known for progressing. So when we're not aware of behavioral cycles, we can get caught in them. And then we might find that we're repeating a pattern until we break out of the circle. So we have to sometimes make a conscious choice to do something new, to break out of a circle. Sometimes it might feel like we're forced out of a familiar pattern that we're enjoying or that we like. Have you ever been in a circular conversation where you end up right back where you started? Sometimes arguing is just circling around on the same arguments. If people are just defending their position without listening, then they may not be progressing into problem solving. So when we get tired of repeating circles, we choose a new path. We learn a new skill or we make some type of change. And then when we extend ourselves, when we expand, when we venture forth, we create new pathways. We create new opportunities for thought. And so more can be revealed through us and as us in new, fresh, and exciting ways. And this affects how we're connected to the world. So we need to be connected and grounded in our fundamentals, in our foundation, and we need to also be willing to venture forth with courage. So wisdom is knowing when to circle and when to spiral. And again, both modes are effective, and we need a proper balance. We need a proper balance of circling and spiraling in life. So how does this relate to prosperity? Well, you might notice that abundance is cyclical. Abundance often seems cyclical. Are there any particular fruits or vegetables that you look forward to during the year? Maybe you like in the summer when you go to the grocery store and they have those big bins of corn, the corn harvests come in, you got all that corn on the cob that people are going through, and you can cook some corn. I really like cherries, so I love it in the summer when the cherries are in the grocery store. Hatch peppers, there's a window in the year where we can get hatch peppers. And here in Houston, we have a lot of pecan trees, so when they're making pecans, might be pecans all over the ground, all over the tree, just in that season. Lemon trees, we have some citrus here. So you might notice that abundance can come in cycles, and we can just acknowledge that and be aware of it. And then again, if you find yourself caught in a circle in some aspect of your life, it can be effective to ask, what can I do to keep progressing? What can I invite into my life? What can I introduce? How can I extend myself? How can I maybe be brave, be bold, make some change, do something different? So one way to spark change is by making an effective request. An effective request addresses the concerns of all parties involved. And even just thinking about sparking a positive change can lead to progression. So for example, let's say you're being hired into a new job and you want to ask for a particular salary. Or maybe you want to ask for a raise. So you're going to build your case, you're going to see what the economy is doing, you're going to understand the structure of the organization before you go in and state your case. And then you might also be aware that even if money is not forthcoming, there's other things you can ask for. You could ask for mentoring. You could ask for a pathway for advancement. You could ask for what you could do to make yourself more productive and more valuable. You could ask somebody to teach you a new skill. So there's many ways to break out of a circle and into a spiral of progression. Now I want to talk just briefly about the opposite of a cycle. The opposite of a cycle is a fragment. It's just a snippet of information. A fragment is not connected to the whole. So if somebody's just living in a little fragment, they're not open to other input. They're not open to other sources of information. Prejudice is a form of living in a fragment because it means that somebody is not open to other ideas, to other input. They're just going to go back and forth in that little fragment, that little way of being. And you know that someone's stuck in their ways when they're not experiencing the flow of life, when they're not open to new ideas and new input and new sources. So when we want to be in the flow of life, we need to connect the circle. We need to be in a circle or in a spiral that brings us into that flow of life, so we're not just going in a little fragment. So in the different areas of your life, are you circling? Are you spiraling? Or are you living in a fragment that is incomplete? Now, sometimes it feels safe and reassuring to, again, rely on what is predictable, but progress is the nature of life. So when we want to invite and make space for more abundance and more prosperity, we want to live in a conscious connection with the divine source of all that is. We want to live in conscious connection with the source of infinite light, infinite resources, infinite solutions. And we want to be open to creativity and innovation so that we can be the fullest expressions of who we came here to be. And when we maintain our connection with God, then we'll know when to rest and when to venture forth. We'll know when to honor the rituals of the past and when to introduce some newness. And we'll know when to reiterate our learning, when to reinforce our foundations and our traditions, and when to expand into new ways of being. Let us pray. So as we feel our presence right here, right now, opening again to the gratitude of what it means to be a human being and all that we get to experience. Gratitude for the delicious foods that we get to eat, the beverages that we get to taste, the nature that surrounds us, the beauty of the trees, the fruits and vegetables that come forth. The ways that we get to move our bodies, the ways that we get to feel our bodies in space, experiencing hot and cold and up and down. And maybe even finding gratitude for those times, those moments that have been so challenging and so difficult. Maybe those days when we didn't know how we were going to get through that day. And we got up the next morning, we opened our eyes, and we put our feet on the floor, and we kept going. And we found support, and we came home to who we are, and we nurtured that light within. And sometimes that light may feel very weak, just barely flickering. But we can continue to nurture that light and know that we are supported, that we are nurtured and nourished, that when we can't find that light within, others are holding awareness of that light for us. And so we open to what is mine to do? Who did I come here to be? How can I be more of my fullest, most realized, most abundant and prosperous self? And when it's time to regroup, we give ourselves permission to rest, to gain our energy and our strength back. We can gain comfort in the traditions and the rituals that bond us, that help us to form a society and a culture. Those rituals that we pass on to our young people, to our loved ones. And we can also affirm that we can find openness to new ideas, to innovation, new sources, new input. And we can know how to achieve the balance, the harmony, the equanimity, as we cycle between circling and spiraling. And we can also ask to be shown, where might I have any fragments in my life? Where might I be just retreading, digging a trench, being stuck in my ways? And how can I complete the circle? How can I complete the conversation? How can I heal? How can I forgive? How can I come full circle so that I know that everything is working for my good? That no one and nothing is against me. That I can triumph. That I can rely on that infinite divine source of love that is always available, always flowing forth. So that I can rest in the knowing that I can just be. I can be still and know that I am one with the divine, eternal, infinite source. And I can say yes to expressing the delight, the wonder, the awe, the joy, the clarity. I can say yes to being that full expression, to drawing ever and ever closer to an expanded awareness where it feels like my arms are so big I can reach across the world. And we can commune with other human beings. We can commune with other beings on this wavelength, on this vibration, building on this foundation, declaring that we are awake, aware, alive, willing to progress, willing to grow, willing to expand, knowing that everything we need will come forth when we need it. The resources, the skills, the talent, the guidance, the people, all is available for our greatest good, for our highest expression, for our fullest way of being. We are love, and we are light, and so it is. Amen, and you are so loved. Thank you.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.